Come on in, everyone. Come on in because we've got a special video today for Rashid's confessional coming out. I don't want to call it a party because this party wasn't fun and exciting. It almost made you want to cry. But I don't know I don't know what we're gonna call it. Is it coming out party? I don't know. When he first came on the screen, y'all, it reminded me of when your girlfriend calls and say, "Girl, you got a minute? We need to talk." You're like, "Well, what's going on? What's going on?" She goes, "I'm about to come over. I'm gonna bring a bottle of wine with me." And you're like, "Oh shoot." Rasheed should have warned us before he got on this video screen and told us before I get started, why don't all of you guys go grab a bottle of wine? Because one, we're gonna be here a minute. I'm gonna need y'all to listen to me because I got some things I need to get off my chest. I got some things I need to confess to. I didn't know what he was going to confess to. At first I thought, please don't tell me he on the down low. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. At first I thought he was going to tell us he was on the down low and living some double life with Symone. And, I didn't know what to believe. I did not know what to believe. So I was a little bit nervous at first. But after he started getting into it and talk about, was really over the whole financial issues. And remember at one point in time in the video, he said, some of you may not come as a surprise. Some of you will come as a big surprise. I'm the one where it didn't come as much of a surprise. Be honest with y'all. Now, the whole totality of it, the whole entirety of how deep it is. Yes, I didn't know it was that bad, but I had already suspected it. I mean, actually, I suspected it back on Ready to Love, be honest with you. Because as y'all know, I'm an entrepreneur for lots of years, and I know about the entrepreneurial world. And I know that when I see people who call themselves entrepreneurs or working for themselves, I often know that comes with a lot of trappings. And I was going to do a video on it about dating a person who's an entrepreneur and the things you need to look out for and the things you need to do differently when you're dating an entrepreneur, because it is a completely different world. And not everyone is made to be a mate to an entrepreneur. It is not an easy life. And if you don't have the stomach for it, then you may need to stay away from entrepreneurs. You may need to just date people with 9-to-5 jobs who have steady paychecks, because although the stuff that he's in is really, really deep, really, really deep stuff. Honestly, you hear it a lot in the entrepreneur world. I've been in the entrepreneur world. I've come across entrepreneurs and I've seen it with people because the entrepreneur world is up, it's down. And if you don't recover from the downs, then you never catch back up. If you're not in a segment of a business where the money is steady or the money is good, you can be in trouble. And I know Rasheed is in the car business, and I knew right then he gonna have problems. Another favorite couple from Maz, Vincent, and what is the young lady's name? I forget what is his wife's name. Good Lord, they just had the baby. Love them. I'm sure they're struggling because he was in the car business, then he went to the real estate business, struggling. If y'all watch Maps, I talked about Kirsten struggling. I know the signs of when things are not going to be all that great, and some people may want to cover them up, but I just know the signs. I know the signs. And a lot of entrepreneurs, they become prideful about owning their own business. And what happens is when they go through those dips and those valleys, they don't like to let people know that they're in trouble and that maybe they need to pivot and do something else. Like I told y'all, I've been doing real estate and in the real estate world for 15 years. The last 4 or 5 years, it started to get pretty bad, especially with COVID and everything. And then it just never really recovered. And I told y'all, I went back to my engineering. I ain't no prideful person. I said right now, no, this work out here in the entrepreneur world has gotten too hard. It's too hard to make a dollar. It's not steady. I'm working harder in the entrepreneurial world than I was in corporate America world. Corporate America has changed a lot since I left 15 years ago. All these Gen Zers. Thank you, Gen Zs. Thank you, Gen Zs, because what Gen Zs got rid of is that grind culture. Now when you go to corporate America, they be like, we ain't working over 40 hours. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm loving corporate America again, because when I left the first time, they have you working 50 hours a week in these corporate jobs, 50 hours a week. You don't get no vacation time. You only getting 1 week of vacation 15 years ago, 2 weeks of vacation. And nowadays, Gen Zers came in and said, oh, no, we want sick time, we want vacation time, and we ain't working over 40 hours. I love it. Do you want to manage them all the time? Probably not. But let me tell you, they don't fought some good fights, and I'm ready to come on back into the world and reap the benefits. But when I look at Rasheed, I look at some of the trappings he got into with the entrepreneurial world versus having a steady job where he probably could have had a little bit more security in his life. But I'm all over the place already. I already know I'm all over the place because I'm going to tell you, when I watched this video, I had so many emotions. Thank you, El Rami, for dropping down in my comments and telling me to go watch it. And I watched it yesterday, but I needed to digest it. I needed to digest it and figure out what was it that I was going to talk about that's different from what he's talking about. Because I just don't want to talk about him. I want to talk about, broader issues that involve what he did. And I'm going to tell you this. First of all, I want to call this, how did Rasheed get here? Okay, that's what I'm going to call this video. How did Rasheed get here? And what I'm going to say is, I believe he got here through a variety of ways, which are myths. What else do I want to call them? I want to call them myths and traps. That's what I want to call them. I feel like Rasheed fell into a lot of myths and a lot of traps, and he got stuck there and he didn't know how to dig himself out. And I know he says he's a narcissist. I'm admitting I'm a narcissist. I don't think he's a narcissist. First of all, if he was a narcissist, he wouldn't be doing this video. If he was a narcissist, he wouldn't have done this video. No narcissist is going to get on here and accept any accountability whatsoever for what they did wrong. A narcissist would have got on here and said, yeah, maybe I am here where I am now, but it's not because of me. It's all because of you and someone else. He would have been blaming Symone. He would have been blaming his ex-wife. He would have been blaming his mama. He would have been blaming his daddy. He would have blamed everybody else except taking any accountability. So the fact that he sat on here and said, I am a narcissist, I don't agree with that. Now, yeah, you may be a fraud in the way that you covered up things. Absolutely. You may have lied. Absolutely. But are you a narcissist? I don't think Rasheed is a narcissist. And I think he got that from Denise. When he was first talking about Denise said he was a narcissist, I thought it was some random lady named Denise down in his comments, one of his videos. But then as I started going on, I started to feel like, well, is he talking about Denise from his season of Ready to Love, when Denise went in on him, talking about the whole light skin, dark skin thing? I didn't agree with her then. I don't agree with her now. And so he says now she's right. She ain't right, Rasheed. Denise was not right then, and she ain't right now. Do you have flaws? Do you have things that are have gotten you in a real tight spot? Absolutely you do. But I'm not going to go so far to say you are a narcissist. I think that word is being thrown around loosely now. I don't know. People learn the word and now they're describing everybody as narcissist. Was he selfish in maybe some of the things he did to protect his own image? He lied to others to protect his own ego, his own self. Yeah, I can see all that. But all of that doesn't necessarily mean you are a complete narcissist. I also think that he might have gotten ahead of this curve a little bit. I said, I wonder why he came on here and did this. Part of me believes that he got on here and got ahead of Symone. We know Symone. Symone, I'm telling you, he probably was afraid of what Symone would say if she got the mic first. And I think he wanted to control his own narrative. I think he knew the relationship had blown up. And I think he said, let me get on here and confess, fall on my sword first before I get executed by Symone. Because we've seen the takedowns of Symone and they are not pretty. Symone's takedowns are not pretty. So we have no idea, at least I don't. I have no idea how Symone is feeling right now. And I don't know if she's feeling hurt, anger, betrayed, all of those. Is she feeling sad? Is she mad? Is she angry? I have no idea how she's feeling. I'm not friends with her. But I do know that sometimes Symone can dig in deep and she can dig in hard. And part of me believes that Rasheed didn't want to take that chance of her to come on here and start exposing him of everything he said and did. And then he doesn't get to sort of control the story. So I think he came on here and he tried to control the story and tell his own side, which is good. I mean, they're in the public eye now. They got a popular YouTube channel and more than likely their breakup would be public as well. So maybe his publicist or whoever he talked to said, you know what, you better do a video. You better do a video and get ahead of it. So that's what I think about that. But it got wild, y'all. It got wild. He started talking about this watch I got on is a fake Rolex. This chain I got on is a fake diamonds or gold chain or whatever it was, white gold. That's fake. He talked about he's selling his house. He's talking about he's a $250,000 in debt from student loans and maybe other personal loans. He started talking about his car is in his mama's name. His house is in his mama's name. Woo! Good Lord. He was spilling it all. And so what I said to myself is, Rasheed, you didn't get here by yourself. It's not to blame other people, but you didn't get here by yourself. And I know he wants to talk about his ADHD. He wants to go back to his childhood. He wants to go back to the shame he felt when he had ADHD. And probably he was slower than some of the other kids. Maybe he didn't think things out clearly, which is a sign of ADHD. You can't organize yourself, which means a lot of times you can't organize your finances. And how that's sort of the beginnings of where he is now. He has a learning disability, and how that learning disability has played a role probably in some of the decisions he's made, and also probably some of the career decisions he's made, where he goes, where he doesn't go, when he leaves. And I'll say this. I know Rasheed says he's on the road to healing now. The relationship is blown up. He's confessed to all of us, and now he's starting over. Part of me believes that this isn't a completely start over, because one of the things that when Rasheed was running down his life, I noticed that he does is he runs. When it gets hot in the kitchen, when it gets sticky, he runs. He exits marriages. He's exiting this marriage with Symone. And I mean, of course, he isn't the only decision maker. Symone can exit. He's exited careers. He's exited businesses. He's done different things because he wants to go off and he wants to get better. Absolutely, he needs to get better. Absolutely, there are some skills he needs to get better. But a part of me still feels like the running from the problems, the hiding of the problems is still symptomatic to a cycle. And what I also think that he needs to do is he needs to sit down. He needs to get help with someone helping to organize him. And he needs to follow the direction of someone else. One of the things out here that's going on with men, and you are hearing out in this dating world, is this idea that men should be the leaders. Men should be the leaders. They should be able to lead their household. They should be able to lead a woman. They should be able to lead this. They should be able to. But what happens when you have a scenario like a Rasheed, and he actually isn't capable in some of those areas of leadership, specifically financing? Should he just keep trying to lead himself because he's a man, he's a gender, and that's what's expected of him? If he gets with a woman, should that woman allow him to lead her financially, even though he hasn't had any demonstrated performance? I really wish, when I talk about myths and traps, I really wish we'd stop assigning roles and duties in relationships based on gender. I really do. I really wish we'd start assigning roles in marriages based on talent, demonstrated performance, and who is more capable in that area. I'll tell you that in my household, I'm an engineer, as y'all know. I'm good with numbers, very good with numbers. I'm far better at numbers than my husband. And money is about numbers. Money isn't about feelings. I want this, I want that. Money is about numbers. And if you are not good with numbers, then you need to find someone who is good and you need to listen to them. So the Rasheeds of the world, when he found out earlier in life that he had ADHD, he should have absolutely been up under the leadership of another person. I don't care who they are. Pick a man, pick a woman. Pick your spouse. Pick whoever you want who has demonstrated performance, who's good with numbers, and you should have been up underneath their leadership. You shouldn't try to lead yourself in an area in which you've already proven you're not good at it. Can you get better? Absolutely, you can get better. Should you strive to keep getting better? Absolutely. I mean, the result of me being in a marriage and being good with numbers, my husband has gotten better with numbers over time, but he ain't surpassed me. So you should get better at numbers, But it doesn't mean that if you're not good at numbers, then you should have to suffer all the consequences of not being good at numbers, because there are too many people out here in the world who are good at it. But you know what that takes? That takes you releasing your pride. That takes you relenting and realizing, hey, this person is better at numbers. Me and my husband went through it together the first couple of years of marriage, where he tried to pretend he was better at it than me. And then when we went head to head, he realized, dang, she is better than me. So eventually he relinquished the pride in that area and said, you know what? Does it mean I get all financial control in the house? No, it doesn't mean that. What it means, though, is that he relies upon me more than he did before. And he doesn't use it as a gender war in our home and try to act like he is always going to be making the decisions. He always knows best because he's the male. He leads in other areas of the home. There's tons of other areas in our marriage in which he leads, in which his voice carries a more of a heavier burden. I'm not going to go through them all in your marriage, but this is what people need to do in their own relationships. It doesn't need to be based on a gender. It needs to be based on who is the most capable in that particular area. And that could vary in between finances, rearing children, caretaking, cleaning of the house, organizing vacations. It doesn't matter. Negotiation. My husband is a much better negotiator than I am. So even when we're making financial decisions and we have to go purchase something, he's actually a much better negotiator than I am. So yeah, I may crunch the numbers, but then when we want to execute the plan, typically he's in the forefront. He's actually the one doing the negotiation for the pricing and all the terms and different things like that. But I'm the one that's crunched the numbers and said, these are our bottom line numbers. This is what it will cost us. I need you to go in here and get this deal for us. And he executes it. So I would say to Rasheed that this idea of breaking up with Symone, whichever it's going to be, or ex-wives or running, make sure you run to somebody, a financial planner or someone. Don't just go off on your own and figure out you can get this sorted out all by yourself. Because otherwise you're doing the same old thing. And the same old thing is relying upon yourself to fix your problems. And what you really do is you need help. What you really need is you really need help. I know a lot of these shows, we often talk about people need go to therapy. Some people need to be in financial therapy, which means you need to relinquish the fact that there are some things you're not good at. You haven't become good at them and you need help with them. And another point I want to pivot to is to talk about where I don't see much of a change with what's going on with Rasheed is because he's still been rejected over his financial shortcomings. Or he's been rejected over his shortcomings, period. And I want to go back to what he talked about with his childhood when he was first diagnosed with ADHD. And he said that what his parents did, his mother, grandmother, whomever else he was raised with, said, my child is not going to be labeled as a learning disability. My child is not going to be left behind or held back in school. You can learn, you can do this, you can do that. And I understand why the mother did it. I understand why people do it with their kids. I understand all this, but embedded in a lot of this stuff when he started talking about his childhood is also a non-acceptance of who he is. First of all, I want to say this. I know years ago, probably when he was a kid, a lot of Black people were on the track that the only way to achieve wealth was through a college education. And we did a lot of disservice to a lot of people by downgrading blue collar trade jobs, electricians, mechanics, plumbers, working in factories or whatever else case may be, where you just went to a job, you might have done the same thing over and over again, but you earned a steady paycheck, you got a pension, you earned good money, the check was coming home every single week. We started to get away from that as Black people because I think what it was we wanted to have access to higher education. But the problem that happened on that road, I think, with Black people is that wasn't the best route for everyone. It really wasn't the best route for everyone because everyone is not suited for college. because and everyone is not suited for the entrepreneurial world. Entrepreneurial world is ever changing. You have to be able to adapt to the new environment, new circumstances. And if you're not a person who can learn things quickly, learn things fast, adapt very fast to the changing environment, COVID, downturns, what happens is you get swallowed up in the entrepreneurial world. So when I look at Rasheed and I hear he had ADHD as a child, but he becomes an entrepreneur, it's actually the wrong place he should have been. He shouldn't have been in that world. Now, I don't want no ADHD people coming for me. This is not to put ADHD people down, but what I'm a proponent of is go where your strength is. Go where your strength is. And if you're in an entrepreneurial world, you have to learn new things constantly because you got to keep up with the environment. And if you're a person who has a learning disability, it doesn't mean you can't do it, but what it means is it's going to be more difficult for you. It's going to be more difficult for you. And that means you're actually exasperating something in you that's already difficult. When those counselors told him when he was a child and said, you know what, he might be well suited for trade because then you can learn the trade and you can become good at it. You can be a master of it. You could have built your own business at it, but you're not having to learn new things all the time. You could have brought in partners. And I feel as if that when Rasheed was a young child and he said, I was made to feel ashamed of my ADHD, I believe it. And I don't think it just came from friends. I think it came from just the way, we tend to, we back then. I don't think it's as much now. I think there's a lot of things going on with mental health and learning disabilities. But I think there were a lot of things in which we might have didn't handle it correctly back then. When I look at that, Rasheed talked about how he became a school teacher. He finally went to college. He got his degree. He became a school teacher. And so, well, that's good. Why didn't he stay a school teacher? You know why? Because it didn't pay enough. It didn't pay enough. Okay. And I know we sit out here in the world and we say we need more Black educators. We need more Black teachers. We need more Black men being in the classroom, being mentors to our Black sons. But if these Black men become teachers and don't make the salaries because teachers aren't paid a lot of money, those Black men are like, well, how will I find a wife? No women will want me as a teacher. We watch a lot of reality TV shows. We're watching Married at First Sight this season, and you got a gentleman on there named Shaq, who is in education. He's a PhD in education. More than likely, he doesn't make a whole lot of money. He's paired with a woman who wants $2.9 million houses. We can't have it all, people. If we want Black men in education, then there's got to be some Black women who are willing to marry them and be with them, even if their salaries are not, mid six figures, $200,000 a year. They're not going to be those men. So there's got to be some women who are going to value those men for being in education, making less money. Hey, Love and Marriage Huntsville. Those of you watch that show, the Martells of the world. Remember, if y'all remember his story, he was in education. I think Martell and Melody were teachers. I think Martell had a landscaping business. Melody was a teacher. They eventually moved over into the entrepreneurial world. Come to find out, after all the divorces between Melody and Martell, the divorce, we come to find out that Melody was more of the brains behind the operation. Martell might have had charisma. He might have had charm. But when it came to the actual brains behind the businesses, we're finding out that it was mostly Melody, because Martell has struggled outside of Melody making a lot of the business decisions. Martell can't pass his contractor's license. Martell more than likely has a learning disability. There is something going on with Martell where he can't pass the contractor's exam. Does it mean he couldn't be successful in the world? Yep, he could have been. He was successful, but he was paired with a woman who had another skill that he didn't have. Now, he messed it all up and he's learned the hard way. But there are a lot of relationships and marriages where the men have been very dependent upon the financial and prowess of women. Look at, you watch Love and Marriage Huntsville. Come to find out that Letitia owns a 52% of the business with her and Marceau. They're married, been married a long time. How did Tisha come to own so much of the business? More than likely, Marceau had financial problems. More than likely, Marceau didn't have the credit back in the day. More than likely, that's how Tisha was able to be the front person for the business, because she probably had a good credit score, could get credit, maybe had savings when Marceau was maybe more of the risk taker in the financial world, the entrepreneurial world, and he didn't have it. That's why she acquired 51%. Now they're working together. Marceau has developed more skills. He has the skills to actually do the work, the contracting work, but more than likely, it was Tisha doing more of the bidding and helping with the bidding and helping with the numbers and helping with the books. That's how they got to this phase now. She probably didn't expose her husband, because a lot of wives don't. They don't talk about their husband's shortcomings. But they work as a unit and they do what they do. And then when it comes on these reality TV shows, then sort of the truth starts coming out. Look at same show. Look at Maurice and Kimmy. I can tell you right now, Kimmy used to earn more money than Maurice. I can tell you right now, prior to Maurice going to law school and doing what he does, I'm quite sure Kimmy as an RN probably out-earned Maurice. That's what I'm going to say. Maybe now they got this show money coming in. Maybe now that Maurice was able to go to college, go back to school, get his law degree, he's probably building up. But when they first got together years ago, I tell you, I know Kimmy out-earned him. I know she did, but did she go around talking about that? No, she probably didn't. This is what I want to get to about these. Another when I talk about myths and traps of marriage is that, or myths and traps that Rasheed fell into, is he fell into a narrative, a myth out here that women are not the ones who are playing big roles in the financial work of relationships. It's a myth. That's not happening. It's a myth. And if you keep trying to live up to it, then you're falling into a trap. If you're believing that this is what a marriage or relationship looks like, or what manhood looks like, and that you don't depend on the financial intellect of a woman, then you will find yourself where Rasheed is, because he's thinking, I have to do it all on my own. That's what marriage is. Marriage is a partnership. So why would you be in partnership if you're not utilizing the talents of your partner and you're trying to rely upon your own talents, but yet your talents are deficient? That's a trap. That's a trap for failure. Rasheed's quest to cover up his failures, his deficiencies, also led him to not ask for help. See, because you can't do both. If you're hiding your deficiencies, then you can't ask for help, because if you ask for help, then that exposes your deficiency. So there's pride involved. Now, who also helped with this? I'm gonna tell you right now, his mama has helped. The fact that his mama put a car in her name, the fact that her mama let him buy a house in her name, tells me that the mama also helps him cover it up. And this might have been based on because of how he was when he was a child. His mother wanted to protect him. His mother wanted to care for him, to love on him. It came from probably a good place. You know, this whole idea of him saying he went to chiropractic school and ran up over $100,000 or $200,000 in student loan debt so that his dad could say my son was a doctor before his dad passed away. What is this? What is this facade? What's wrong with saying that my son has a learning disability? And that as a result, I want to steer him into a direction where he can be successful and thrive, and not put him in an environment, which is the entrepreneurial world, in which he may struggle. He may struggle. Rasheed needs to get out of the entrepreneurial world, period. He needs to get back into a structured environment, period. He needs to get into a structured environment, period, where other people can help make computations, when there are other people in a corporate world that would prevent him from making catastrophic decisions with money. See, when you're in an entrepreneurial world, even if you're doing something, there's checks and balances. Even if you make the wrong decision, there's going to be someone else that says, oh, no, we're not going in that direction. That doesn't check out, right? There's people like me in your corporation who are good with numbers, and we tell you, no, we're not doing that. That's not a good return on investment of our money. That's what I do. That's part of what I do. And I know people like the Rasheeds of the world. They're good people. They have good ideas, but they're not good with numbers. They need the people like me in the world to give them checks and balances, but they can still be successful. We've all got our talents, and we need to stay in our talent lane. Rasheed needs to get out of the entrepreneurial world. You see, a lot of people in the entrepreneurial world got there because they didn't like the checks and balances in the corporate world. They felt they were contained, controlled too much. So they wanted to go off on their own and do their own thing. Well, the truth of the matter is they went out and did their own thing, and they basically slit their own throats. That's the Rasheeds of the world. They really should have stayed in a more controlled, confined area, be successful in that area, narrow their scope of work, learn that scope of work, and stick with it. There's nothing wrong with this. And I wish people would stop putting down blue collar people, tradespeople, people who do maybe the same thing every single day. Rasheed should have stayed a teacher. Because you know what? You get your lesson plan together, you teach fourth grade, and you teach fourth grade every single year. And then after 20 years, you would have had yourself a pension. If you would have stayed in teaching, he'd be 45 now. He'd have a pension coming, healthcare benefits. You know, you could have helped other kids along that had ADHD. But guess what? That doesn't come with the big money. Now you can't flex. Now you can't get cars. Now you can't get all the women you want. Like I said, this is what really leads to all of this. It's not just about learning to finance, how to learn. It's not just about learning about money. It's learning to go where your strengths are. It's learning to release pride. It's learning a whole lot of things. And it's also about getting rid of these myths. You know, I've been wanting to talk about money. You know, you guys have been talking about money in some of my other show. I had romance and finance. I've been doing a few here, a few there. And I have saved up a few little sermons, as you might want to call these, because I saw the stuff with Gabrielle Union. I saw the stuff with Rebecca Lynn Pope. Okay. And Gabrielle Union over here talking about she 50-50 with Dwayne Wade and their marriage. No, you're not. Another person that not earning money. I said, how can she be 50-50 with Dwayne Wade? I had to look up their net worth. I said, is Gabrielle Union worth more than I thought she was? I'm going to find out Gabrielle Union is worth $40 million. I didn't know that. I didn't know no big movie she's been on, but maybe she's accumulated wealth over time. Let's give it to her. But when I look at Dwayne Wade, he's worth 170. So how the heck can you be at 50-50? The only way you can be at 50-50 with someone who's worth 4 more times than you, than if you've really compacted your lifestyle. Because what Dwayne Wade can afford, Gabrielle Union can't afford 50%. So I don't want to hear nothing about you 50-50. That's like me saying, I can afford a dinner at the most expensive restaurant in town because I make a lot of money, let's say, versus a person who doesn't make a lot of money says, I can afford 50% at Applebee's. Sure, we can go to Applebee's and you can afford 50%. So you can say, I paid 50% of the bill. Got you. But what I can do is so much more. So what I've done is maybe I've lowered my standard of living so you can afford 50%. But the fact that Gabrielle Union got on TV and had to say, I pay 50%, what for? Who cares? You want a man that's worth 170 million. Why do we care that you're paying a 50%? Pride. Because she wanted to let us know that she got money too. So in the meantime, she wants to diminish what her husband really could do for her, because he could do a lot more for her. And she wanted to puff her own self up and say that she's can do 50-50. And that she's still walking around with anxiety because she's got to hold up so many people. Why? Pride. This goes back to what I told you about Rasheed. It's pride. It's pride around money. When I went back to corporate America, like I told you, I went back because the entrepreneurial world is too precarious at this moment. It's been precarious for the last, I'd say, maybe 3 years. And so I stuck with it, but I said, you know what? Oh no, this is way too much work. I'm not working this hard. I started to find myself working more hours in the entrepreneurial world than I was working at corporate America. I said, I'm leaving entrepreneurial world. I'm going back to corporate America. Corporate America is a better deal right now. People looked at me and said, oh, that's like you going backwards. No, it's not. You must not know numbers. You must not know numbers. I'm following the numbers. I don't have pride that prevents me from making better sound financial decisions. Once it flips back again, well, probably I won't be working at all. But if it flips back again, guess what? I'll go back to it. I'll go back to it. But Gabrielle Union, pride. What's the point of saying that? We go 50-50. 50-50? And he got 170 million? You're not 50-50. You're not 50-50. You may be 50% of your child's education, 50% over here. 50. But when I see those Instagram pictures, when y'all are out on yachts costing $30,000 for the day and all that, you ain't paying 50-50. I don't believe it. So what's the point of saying it? Pride. Pride. Even when I heard Rebecca Lynn Pope's, I only heard a part of it. Saying, is this what it's like to be taken care of? A man's paying 95% of all the bills. Is this what white women have been living? Because with black women, with black men, black women don't get this. Oh, I like Rebecca Lynn Pope. I've seen her a couple of times, but once again, I'll say, you don't know numbers. That's what I'll say to her too. First of all, she's married to a man who's probably what? How old is her husband? 53 years old. So I don't know what her husband was back when he was 30. But to be telling young women that they need to find a man that can pay 95% of their bills when they're in their 30s or 20s, or even sometimes their early 40s, is somewhat ridiculous. Not in today's world. It's lies. It's myths. It's having people hold on to an image of relationships. That's a myth. Her man is 53 years old. Who was he when he was 20? Could he afford 95%? When he was 30, could he afford 95%? When he was 40, could he afford 95%? I don't know. I don't know what it's taken, what road that man has been on to get to where he is. Congratulations to him that he's reached this time. Congratulations to her and her husband. But to throw that out there as, is this what white women been experiencing? No. No, it's not what white women experience. I work with white people. I work with Asians. In fact, that's all I work with. Engineering. There ain't that many black people in engineering. I probably only work with one other black engineer in my whole life in any of my corporate jobs, period. One black woman in the course of my career, maybe another 2 or 3 black men engineers in the course of my career. They're not plentiful. So you know who I work with? White people and Asians. And I tell you what, they wives is working. I work with another engineer now. We make about the same kind of money. His wife's a doctor. I work with another man. He's an Asian. His wife works. She makes more than him. This myth that black women are the only ones out earning men is a myth. So then you got people out here telling Rebecca Lynn Pope, find you a man that can afford 95% of the bills. And therefore, a black woman out here is staying single. I tell black women, I say this, how much you make? They say, oh, I make 80,000. Got it. How much is your raise every single year? How much do you make every single year in a raise? What's your raise? Your last performance review, what was your raise? Oh, I got a 4% raise. Got it. 80,000 a year, 4% raise. You got an extra 3,200 coming to you next year. 3,200 divided over 12 months. I don't know. That's less than $300 a month. So you worked a whole year to get a $300 extra per month on your 4% raise. That man you talking about who only makes 60,000, less than you, where he living? He got his own place. Oh, he does. How much is he paying rent? He's paying $1,700. So if you were to marry this man, he's already paying a $1,700 for rent now. Let's say y'all got married. Y'all combined households. Guess what? He can continue to pay the $1,700. Now you don't have your rent. How much your rent? I'm paying $2,000. Well, there you go. You just got a $2,000 raise per month. Per month. And all you got to do is get along with somebody. At work, you got to do a whole lot of shit to get $400, $300. You just got a $2,000 raise because you just got to get along with a man. That's what I'm saying. Rebecca Lynn Pope, you could be married to a 40, 50-year-old. He might already have a house. He's already got the house. He's already paying the electricity. He's already paying the gas. He's already paying the cable, the internet. He's already paying it anyway. So you moving into the house, he can just keep maintaining it. Guess what you've just gotten? A raise that can be used for other things, like she said, for investment purposes. It could be used in other areas. But don't act like a man just get there in their 20s and their 30s. This is the prime age of women dating. Their 20s, their 30s, their 40s. You need to give women 20 and 30 and 40 advice, not advice of when a man becomes a 50, damn near 60 years old. That shit is ridiculous. These myths behind how finances work in marriages is trapping a lot of people. It trapped Rasheed and it's trapping a whole lot of other people out here in the world. I see it all over these reality TV shows. I see the traps, the financial traps they don't want to allude to, but I see them. I watched a show the other night, Bail Collective. Letitia with her man Glenn. He been a cheater before this show. But you know the difference is, and now Letitia got money coming in from the show. So now she can say a little bit more, speak up a little bit more in the marriage. So now she's a more bold. When they had that little episode a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if y'all watched Bail Collective, and Letitia talking about she had her friend put an apartment in her name because she wanted to leave Glenn, her husband, but she had her friend put the apartment in her name. So Glenn, I don't have no rights to the apartment. Girl, you put that apartment in your friend's name, Marie, because you couldn't get the apartment in your name. Because you might either have got bad credit or no credit. Let's be honest. Just because you married and you get an apartment doesn't mean the husband got rights to it. What if I'm leaving an abuser? You mean to tell me if I leave my husband and he's an abuser, I get my own apartment, he got rights to the apartment because we married? I'm not a fool. I keep telling you, people out here lying to people about marriage and relationships and what's going on with money and finances. And then people who are unmarried or striving for that, they're up here following stuff that's not true. And then they fall into these traps like Rasheed, thinking the man's got to make all this money. Let's look at the numbers. I'm going to pull up some numbers. First of all, here are the real numbers on finances in households, black and white. Okay, this is on blackdemographics.com. Go there and look under household income. You'll see it. But when you look on this sheet, it looks at black people. It breaks black people down by black men and black women and all people. One of the things that you will see is that with any category, you will see the black column and then all the USA column, which is everybody else, white, Hispanic, Asian, all USA. If we go to the first little grid, the blue section, it says a bachelor's degree, associate degree, college, whatever else. You'll see that there's a difference between the numbers. But let's go with the bachelor's degree only. 1,070 for black people, 1,300 for all others. We're talking about less than a $300 a week difference. This is a week. These are weekly numbers. So we're talking about less of a margin of $300. So over the course of 4 weeks, we're talking about $1,200. So even if you say blacks are earning less than everyone else, you're talking about a difference of only $1,200 a month. So when I hear Rebecca Lynn Pope say, go out and get you a white man, you go out and get you a white man instead of the black man, women, so that you can get an extra $1,200 a month. That's really what you're talking about. Let's talk about the numbers. Okay? We're not talking about a 53-year-old man like her husband. We're talking about more of the average age people are dating. Okay? Talking about $1,200. Ain't nobody breaking up out here in the world, getting divorced over $1,200. That's not going to make or break your marriage. You're not going to say, I'm miserable with a man, but I'm ecstatically happy because this other man makes $1,200. It's not that big of a difference. And this is what I'm talking about. If you think there's that big of a difference, that means somebody's not telling you the truth. People are lying to you. People are lying to you, single people, so that they can look good in their marriages or whatever. They don't want you to know they with someone in the same boat as what you're talking about you don't want. They tell you they don't want it, but they're with it. We go back to this Rasheed thing. This may be all a surprise to us, and we may say to ourselves, well, didn't Symone know? Symone done run background checks on everybody. She done run credit checks. You mean to tell me she didn't know the trouble that Rasheed was in? I don't believe it. She may not have known the extent of it, but she knew that his financial circumstances were not solid. She might have known about it a year ago and it got progressively worse and he didn't update her. I believe that. But does she not know any inkling of this? No, she knew. She knew some of it. She knew some of it, and she was probably willing to work with him on some of it initially, hoping it would get better, but it didn't get better. It might have gotten worse. So that's what I'm saying. People don't always tell you what they know about their boyfriends, girlfriends, significant others, husbands, because this little financial world happens in all marriages. There's dips, there's dives, there's high points, there's low points. That's why marriage is for sickness and in health, better for worse. Because if you're going to be married for 40 years, you're going to have some ups and some downs. Rebecca Lynn Pope's got this the husband she's married to. I think they've been married for quite a while, maybe 10 years, 12 years, 13 years. But guess what? There was probably another woman that had to go through the dips with that man when he was younger, when his money wasn't right. She's getting the improved, better version husband after he's gone through maybe a wife before or several girlfriends where he might have had more financial struggles and financial difficulties. She's getting the tail end, the result. Maybe when Rasheed gets to be 53, there'll be a woman talking about how he's paying 95% of the bills. Who knows? Everybody didn't wake up like this. Everybody didn't wake up like Rebecca Lynn Pope's husband at 53. People don't wake up in that financial position. It's a road to get there. And in marriage, typically you're on that road with your partner. But if you don't have the stomach for the road, you may not need to get married. And if you have a weak stomach for the road, you definitely shouldn't marry no entrepreneur or be with one. You need to marry a person with a 9-to-5 job. If you have a weak stomach for fluctuations in income, do not marry, do not date, do not get with an entrepreneur because the road could be bumpy. The road could be bumpy. And going back to these numbers again, let's go back and look at the so-called disparity between black women and black men out earning each other. We look at a bachelor's degree for black men, that's the green, 1167. And we look at the bachelor's degree for black women, look at that, $9.95. So on average, black women with bachelor's degree are still earning less than men with bachelor's degrees. More than likely, that has to do with some of the field choices women have chosen. Women are in teaching, and as we know, teachers don't make a lot of money. They may be in social work. They may be in philanthropy. They may be in a lot of different worlds that even though they have a degree, they don't always pay as much as something the man may have gone into, which might be in the STEM, science and math and different things, accounting. You may say, okay, well, look, Deborah, men with bachelor's degree earn $11.67 and all other men are earning $15.12. You're right. That's another $300 a difference in income versus. But I'm telling you, ain't nobody breaking up with no black man over the fact of just $300 a week. A lot of people are judging other people, black men included, on myths. It's a myth. Find you some white girlfriends. Find you some Asian girlfriends. Talk to them. I got plenty of them. I'm telling you. They're not dealing with too many different situations. A lot of my white girlfriends or Asian girlfriends make more money than their husbands. It's not uncommon. But you know what? I'm going to tell you where the money really plays a part, where you start to really see the difference between black families and white families. And you say, well, yes, the money isn't that different. I can look at the chart and see $300, $1,200. I'm going to tell you where the biggest difference comes from, where we live. Where we live. I'm going to bring up another chart for y'all. Look at where black people live. New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Philly, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Miami, Detroit, L.A., Baltimore. This is where the real problem comes in. It ain't the money you make, it's where you spending that money. And black people live in these high expense cities and states. This is where black people live. So think about it. Sure, you're only making $1,200 less than, say, another person of another race, as I mentioned. $1,200 a month less. $300 every week, $1,200 a month. You say, that's not that big of a difference. But when you are living in New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, guess what? Guess what? It's harder. It's harder. But you know those so-called women you think are paying or living at home and being housewives? Guess where they're not living? They're not living in New York, Atlanta, Chicago. They're living in Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. They're living in Nebraska. They're living in states and they're willing to make sacrifices and live in lower cost areas. But black people, no, I need to live where other black people are. I need to live in New York, Atlanta, Chicago. Puts more pressure on your family, doesn't it? Puts more pressure on your family. Black people are disproportionately concentrated in the cities, and the cities are expensive. Y'all watch the elections, red states, blue states, when the votes come in, they all in these blue states, all these big cities. What difference does it make what votes come in from these other little towns? Because once the votes come in from the big cities where all the black people are located, the votes gonna come rushing in. But guess what? You're paying a price. You want to be less pressure financially on you? You want less pressure financially on you as the female in the household? Leave Atlanta. Leave LA. Leave DC. Leave Maryland. And you can have that life. But I'm going to tell you, white people, Asian people living in these cities, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, the women, they working. I mean, unless they're married to real rich men, which are only maybe 1%ers of the population, they're working and they're making money, a lot of money. I don't know where Rashid and Symone are going to land. I'm sure she's embarrassed because I think a part of this was also her own cover up. Maybe it was to protect herself. Maybe it was to protect her man. She knew about some of it. She wasn't completely in the blind. Absolutely not. And I'm not faulting her for that because a lot of women work with men. But Rasheed needs some help. He needs a person that's going to help him with his finances. He needs to relinquish control over it. His mother needs to stop bailing him out and putting things in her name because that's not helping him. Maybe she thinks she's helping him or protecting him. It's not. He needs to go and get a 9-to-5 job. He needs to leave the entrepreneurial world. Maybe he needs to go back to teaching. Don't they pay off your student loans if you become a teacher? Can he get them student loans paid off if you become a teacher? Because hoping for Biden to get rid of all y'all's student loan debt may not work. That's another thing. One of the shows I did earlier talked about net versus gross. I said, I don't even know why people out here asking people what their gross income is anymore. What for? Net is the only thing that matters. Forget about gross income. Stop talking about a 6-figure man. It's useless. It means nothing. And when I hear a person talking about gross income, I say they don't know numbers. The minute I hear a person, male, female, talking about she wants a 6-figure man, I say to her, she doesn't know numbers because gross means nothing. What difference does your gross income mean when you got $250,000 in student loan debt? What difference does it make when you can't pay your bills because you got more debt than income? Why does your net gross income matter? What matters is your net income. What matters is your disposable income. After you've paid all your bills, how much do you have after? And you know what he told us? He said he's negative. That's what Rasheed said. His account has been negative for the last 2 months. Zeros left. He needs to file for bankruptcy, more than likely, and get as many of those debts relinquished off of his record as possible. And figure out that student loan debt. How can he get that taken off of? I don't think student loan you can ever get it taken off of. But you know what? Maybe there's a job he can take where it says if you do a 3 years teaching, 4 years teaching, all your student loans get forgiven. You better go do it. If you got to be a teacher and only earn $50,000 for 4 years, but you get $200,000 worth of debt written off, I don't know what the rules are. I'd be on that job so fast, so fast. Sign me up. If I could work for $50,000 a year but get $200,000 worth of debt written off, I don't know if that's the case, but he needs to do the math and somebody needs to sit down with him and teach him how to do that. Either you find a job that you can pay it off or you find a place that will get it written off. And y'all over here waiting for Biden. Biden ain't doing it. Get over it. And another myth I want to get rid of is this myth about our grandparents being married for 40 years. Oh, people, your grandmother ain't telling you what she went through with her husband. She's not. She's not telling you. You see them married now, 40 years. She's not telling you all the ups and downs she went through with her husband. She's not telling you maybe some times when your grandfather couldn't pay the bills and she had to step in and do something. They're not telling you. Married people don't divulge every single day of their life, all their ups and their downs. So you're still emulating a marriage, but you don't know the whole truth about that marriage. Your grandmother's not telling you the times your grandfather back in the day might have cheated on her. Back in the day when your grandfather was doing a foolish shit he shouldn't have been doing. They're not telling you. So once again, you're believing how marriage is supposed to look like, but you don't even have the whole story. You don't even have the whole story. You don't know that this is what marriage is. This moment that Rasheed is in with Symone is a big part of a lot of marriages. Financial issues are a big part of a lot of marriages. That's why it causes a lot of divorces. Because it happens a lot. So the idea that you leave a relationship when you have run into financial difficulties, the difference between you and your grandmother is that your grandmother and your grandfather stayed in the marriage and worked through the marriage in the financial difficulties. Am I telling Symone to stay with Rasheed? I don't know. That's for her to decide. But there's plenty of ways she could protect herself from the fallout of Rasheed. There's prenups. There's keeping accounts separate. There's no more, if he doesn't accumulate any more debt in the marriage, then none of that debt will be on her. Those are debts before the marriage. She would never own it. There's plenty of ways. If she loves him, maybe they postpone the marriage. Maybe they just shouldn't be having no big wedding. Maybe they shouldn't be having no destination wedding or whatever they were going to do. It looked like it was going to be a big dot affair. Maybe they need to go to the courthouse and get married. No need for a fancy wedding, fancy ring. But then again, that doesn't go with the facade. Because I'm going to tell you, even what he told me, I thought these two were in love. I thought the love was real. I really did. I thought the love was real. So I don't know. I could see maybe we postpone the marriage until maybe he's a little bit more stable in his finances, but I don't understand. You broke up? You're not even together? Why? Because of the lie? Well, there's another myth. Get ready, women. Men lie. Men lie. If you don't leave a marriage every time a man doesn't tell you the whole truth because he's trying to protect his ego, then you're never going to be married. They lie. They don't tell you. They don't want you to worry sometimes. Sometimes it's their ego. They're ashamed. They lie. You're going to discover some. If you think you know everything about your husband, your boyfriend before you get married, then you naive. Wait till you get married and you learn more. What you going to do? Leave because you found out something you didn't know before? These are myths. That men don't lie in relationships. They lie. They want to please you. They want to make you think more than what they are sometimes. Because this is what they've been told in the world. They've been told they got to be the financial provider. They got to be the leader. They got to know all the right decisions to make. And so when any of those things don't line up, finances, otherwise, guess what they sometimes do? They lie to you. Because they don't want to not be the man society has told them they need to be. Rasheed should have stayed a school teacher, kept his job. He might could have been principal by now, had a steady paycheck, summers off with a pension. But that probably wasn't good enough for a lot of women. Another show we watched, Married at First Sight. What's the guy's name? Miles. He was married to the Karen girl. I think they divorced. They ain't saying it. I think they divorced. Teacher, another person. Another thing I know that's probably behind that too. Financial pressure. Men who are teachers in education, I'm telling you, they're given a hard time by women. The opposite though is Woody and Armani. He's an educator. He's a teacher. That's the opposite. You want noble men who care for children, who coach children. Guess what? They don't make a lot of money. There's not a lot of money in education and helping kids. It's not. But like Rasheed said, I'm not a cheater, never been a cheater. I love family. I love being in relationships. But guess what? He keeps getting rejected because he's bad with money. Women are rejecting him over money. They're not rejecting him because he's a cheater or he's, entirely deceptive. He said his first wife cheated on him because of the lie he told about finances. He married her, didn't tell her he was $100,000 in debt. She felt cheated on. She felt lied to. So she went out and she cheated. He'd been left over and over again in his life, told he wasn't good enough. So he keeps covering up. That's his confession. I felt ashamed of having ADHD, so I covered up, and now here I am because I didn't want to tell people what's going on with me. I didn't want to seek help. And the truth of the matter is I need help. I need somebody who's going to stick by me. I need someone who's going to coach me. I don't need anybody else in my life covering up my flaws. I need someone who's going to confront my flaws, accept them, and say, I still want to be with you. I still want to help you. I still want to help you get where you are. Does that mean if you're that person that steps in and does that with a Rasheed, you don't need to protect yourself? Absolutely, you need to protect yourself. Absolutely, you do as a female. Absolutely, you do. But there are things in place these days that can protect yourself against things like that. Absolutely. But is there a path forward for Rasheed? Absolutely, there is. He ain't the only one. He no unicorn. He ain't the only one that's been here before. There's plenty of people that have been here before, but he needs someone that's going to help him. He needs a professional. He needs a professional that's going to help him. And he needs to relinquish that pride that he doesn't need help. And so I'm glad he's taken this first step and he's come clean. But in a lot of ways, I feel like I didn't hear nothing in that saying that he's going to get help. I still hear about a man who wants to now think he can fix his own problems. He can't. He can't fix his own problems. He needs someone in charge more with his finances. He's 45. It ain't worked out well the way he's been doing it. He needs to do something different. Something different. Anyway, I think I talked long enough. I know I talked long enough. I don't even know how long this video is. I can't even see the clock from here. But I know I talked long enough. And those of you who made it to the end, thanks for listening to me. Thank you for my rant. And as always, I know I said a lot of things some of y'all don't agree with. And I love to hear your different opinions. So please drop down in the comments. Let me know what you think. What was your take on the Rashid confessional, the emancipation, the whatever you want to call it? But it helped me get some things out because, like I said, I've been wanting to talk about some of these things for a minute. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to talk about it. And for y'all who stuck around to the end, I thank you for listening. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye.